Will the league figure out Lamar Jackson this year? I'm going to pose the question on Twitter and tell people to come listen to our answer. Because this was posed to me on Titans Nashville radio this morning. Our friend Ramon Foster, former NFL offensive lineman. The example I used, I don't think the league will figure out Lamar from like an athleticism standpoint or anything, right? So as an NFL player, I use this example with Ramon. He probably, like if you go up against an Aaron Donald or whatever it is, you're practicing against the scout team that entire week, and you know that Aaron Donald is quick and strong and all these different things. But when you actually get to face him on the field, it probably still looks faster than you thought or stronger than you thought, and he's still really, really good. I think Lamar has that element to him still, right? You put, when you're preparing for the Ravens, you take your fastest, you take a fast wide receiver 5 and you say, hey, run these option plays and give us a look, right? Give us a look for what we're going to see this week. Let me see Lamar Jackson's speed. Give that look to my defense. But Lamar Jackson's speed and quickness and elusiveness still makes people look stupid. Yeah. He still breaks angles in the NFL. I don't think that changes. So the NFL is not going to catch up to Lamar Jackson's athleticism. So my answer is that the league will not catch up to Lamar. Only Lamar will dictate whether or not he's up at that MVP candidate or if he's just an 8, for PFF terms, an 80 graded quarterback, a good quarterback. And it's going to be all about Lamar and his passing development.
Yeah, look, I think we need to level set with exactly what this phrase means, because when whoever it was saying it to Fowler and he repeated it and reported it, it's like, this is absurd. This only gets talked about in regards to black quarterbacks. Why are we not talking about the league figuring out Josh Allen and all these kinds of things, right? And it becomes like its own world of loaded language. I think there is a real discussion to be had about, like, the league. We're not going to be 2 years from now. There's no scenario where in 2 years' time, like, Lamar Jackson is now a backup quarterback because the league has neutralized everything he's good at, and like now all you have is this freaky athlete that isn't really capable of like elevating any kind of offense, and you can't function with that, right? So the league is not going to figure him out to the point where he's useless, right? He's not a starting caliber player. The question becomes, are NFL defenses going to be able to react enough to Lamar Jackson based off more information, more experience, more duration of defending him, to make him less than what he has been so far, or to reduce his effectiveness to the point where he is not a top-tier quarterback, right? Or phrased another way, like, is he even capable of getting back to the level he was at when he was a unanimous MVP? Is that within his range of outcomes anymore now that NFL defenses have had more time to adjust to what he brings to the table? And I think that is a real discussion. I think it is also a real discussion for Josh Allen, right? Can he reach that same level
it's different,
again?
I think the Lamar thing is different because the Ravens are running a different offense, though. That's why the question's posed, Sam. I don't even want to get into it. I don't think it's as loaded as people might say. It's because they're running a different offense. Now, you could say the same thing for you could say the same thing for Josh Allen. Will the league catch up to Josh Allen? but what does that mean?
Forget Josh Allen on the basis that maybe Mahomes is a better example, right? Because Mahomes does unique, freaky things that shouldn't work, right? When you look at what Mahomes does a lot of the time, and this is part of the reason he slid in the draft to where he did, is you're looking at this and you're saying, this is 100% what you coach people not to do. You're like, this should not work. The idea of like rolling miles into the backfield and off to your right and then flinging the ball back in the opposite side of the field to a Tyreek Hill or a Travis Kelce who's uncovered, like, this is what Brett Favre used to get panned for doing, right? The Sidney Rice interception that cost him the NFC Championship game, that was that kind of play. And you're like, no, don't do that. That's the thing you coach people not to do. Mahomes does that every week and it works. So I think it's fair to say, well, will the league figure out Mahomes, right? Because he is playing in this unique way and the Chiefs lean into it with what they let him to do. Is there a scenario whereby after a couple of years of this, teams figure out how to slow that down in a way that they haven't so far?
Let's go through all of them. Lamar, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, and how you would attack them and everything. Again, I think the Lamar thing is driven by the history being, say, like RG3. When RG3 had his great rookie season, the football team, Washington, was doing different stuff. They were using the QB run game a lot. They were running more zone read. Alfred Morris became a star back because you took the Shanahan system and you just changed the arithmetic with the quarterback run game. RG3 was a star off of play action. And there were very specific schematic elements that elevated RG3's game that particular year. You could make the argument that the Ravens, if you're just breaking down their offense, Eric Eager does these really good things, right? Where he just looks at offenses and defenses and just says, based off what they do, how are they clustered, right? And the Ravens are always in their own world. Most NFL offenses do a lot of the same things. Similar route concepts, similar route depths, similar play action percentages, all that stuff generally ends up in the same bucket. And there's probably 6, 8, maybe 10 teams that are on the fringes, on outliers. The Shanahan system's always in that world, and the Ravens are in their own world. So I think that's the question. The Ravens are running this different offense,
right,
with Lamar being a design runner 8 to 12 times a game. Can the league adjust to that now that they've seen it for a couple of years? And what is that adjustment? Is the adjustment do everything you can to take away the run game and make Lamar throw? And this is why my answer is the league cannot figure out Lamar if he throws the ball the way he did in 2019, which was, hey, we're going to run empty and I'm going to make quick decisions, throw the ball accurately and all this stuff. If he continues to develop as a passer, I think, it doesn't matter what teams do a whole.
I think generally it is a schematic question, but one that is almost always posed to athletic black quarterbacks just because they're the ones that open up this world of different scheme, right? Like you can also look back and pose the same thing about Chip Kelly's offense when it was the Philadelphia Eagles and the stuff that they were running, and ultimately the league did figure it out, but it was never posed as has the league figured out Nick Foles? Because we knew that Nick Foles wasn't the thing that was driving that. It was just he was the quarterback within the scheme,
right,
that was showing something different to NFL defenses. And once NFL defenses had experience of that and it didn't evolve, they were then able to shut it down. The difference between that and the quarterbacks that this gets thrown at is Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray and some of these other quarterbacks that bring unique skill sets to the table.
It's their skill set.
They are like the foundation piece that allows that offense to be different in the first place. So when you're asking, like, will this system be exposed? Will this system be found out? Will they catch up to it? It ends up being talked about, will they catch up and will they figure out the player? Because we know that's what's driving the scheme. But ultimately, like, it's not really up for debate that Lamar and that Baltimore offense has become less effective. Like, it's worse than it was when he was an MVP, right? That's fair, right?
Natural regression. They were so dominant. Yeah.
So the question is, can they get back to that level, or has the NFL reached a point now where they will prevent it reaching that stage? They're just better equipped to slow down what Lamar does. I think that is up for discussion because I think we've been saying it all offseason. We don't yet know what it is that's limiting this offense. Is it the fact that the offensive line doesn't have the talent that it had when he was an MVP? Is it that they don't have an elite number one wide receiver that can get open at all levels of the defense and give Lamar just better looks in the passing game? Or is it that NFL defenses have caught up to the scheme generally and are just better equipped to slow it down? I think that is still a very live question, which is why I think if you sort of take it down to its bare bones and take the kind of question for what it is, I think it's a fair discussion to have. It's just it gets co-opted and loaded with all this crazy language.
I think Lamar's going to be okay.
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
It's a fair question. Is he going to get? Are we going back toward MVP Lamar,
right,
or just very good?
Will Lamar be figured out to the point where he is no longer a viable starter? No, not a chance. Will Lamar continue to be figured out to the point where he will not get back to being an MVP, like the most dynamic weapon and unstoppable quarterback in the NFL? I think that's more of a debate.